Wow, folks, we're finally here, and I'm back on the talk circuit. My name is Robert Fedoruk. For those of you who don't know me, I've been in the ecosystem for over 15 years. Fred Letty wrote me an update set once, which is pretty crazy. I'm a multiple year MVP. I have multiple hackathon wins under my belt, several speaking engagements at Knowledge. And I'm not saying that to toot my own horn. I'm using that as a setup to say that what I'm about to present to you, ReleaseOps from ServiceNow in Zurich, is one of the most exciting apps I have seen in my space. Okay, I'm not just saying that because I helped build it. I'm saying that because I'm one of you. I love this product. I love doing cool things with it. And ReleaseOps is one of my favorite things. And there's a reason why I have this kind of fancy train in the background, because when I talk about release ops, I want you to think of a train. So let me just bring this to my screen, move this to float. Okay, the vital essence of release ops is to push more stuff more often with a higher degree of quality. How do I progress to the next slide? Okay. So this is the name of the game. More stuff, more often with higher quality. Okay. And we have to meet people where they're at. Most people are still using update sets. That's okay. We want to bring visibility to all the stuff that we want to push, and we want to see, is it ready or not at any given time. Okay. No more relying on your memory. No more relying on Excel sheets or email or any of that nonsense. The labor of bringing stuff out of ServiceNow, or the labor of bringing stuff out of your development systems into your farther instances, is now going to be visible, governed, and automated. And so when I talked about that train metaphor earlier, here's what I mean. So we want you to think of release ops as kind of a train. And the engine of the train is the release. That's the thing that's actually scheduled. The 310 to Yuma leaves at 310. At 310, that train is leaving the station and taking everything that is ready with it. Okay. What does readiness mean? Well, most of us work on teams or have worked on teams where there's multiple ServiceNow stakeholders. The HR team wants to push this. The ITSM team wants to push that. The custom app XYZ team, they want to push something else. Those are what we call deployment requests, and you can think of them as cars on a train. These people want to push stuff. They are a car on the train, and we assess the readiness of each car on the train. And that means we have quality control, kind of like a longshoreman or a customs agent, or somebody at the train line who is responsible for making sure everything is safe in the cars. And so we're bringing all of the wonderful features that ServiceNow has built over the past half decade or more: ATF, instant scan, and if I get time, I'll hint at another quality control mechanism that we're building into our stuff. And then, of course, what goes into the deployment request? Well, that's our update sets. And for those of you on source control, you can now deploy source control stuff via update set. So update sets can still be the vehicle of defining what the package is, but now we have automated ways to put them into a release and assess their quality control. All right. I have 15 minutes to do a normally hour-long demo, so I'm not going to be taking many questions. If you want, please hook up with me on LinkedIn or robert.fedoruk@servicenow.com. I'm happy to answer questions as they come in or direct you to where they can be answered. But for now, I'm going to jump right into the demo. So let me just go here, share screen, window. All right, I'm just got that window open. I'm just going to pop in back here. Can make sure everybody can see my PowerPoint. Everybody see my PowerPoint? Nope, you can't. Okay, bring to screen. And let's remove that from studio. Okay, now can everybody see my, we see the screen? Yes. All right, let's go. Okay, I'm I've got this zoomed in enough, hopefully, that everybody can read it. And I want you to just pay attention up here. I've got a production instance, and those are the blue icons on the side here. I've got a test instance, and that'll be the green icon on the side here. And I have a developer instance, which will be the orange thing on the side. And the first thing I'm going to do is kind of roll through what a release is. Now, we know that release to move anything from development all the way to production is intense amount of labor. What is the baseline record type for labor in ServiceNow? It's a task. So we've now got release tasks. Okay. And they look, act, and feel like other tasks. We got a state model prioritization. We can assign it. So we got the release management team managing this for us. And some properties that make this unique is a release date. Okay. So on this date, the train leaves the station. Remember, this is automation. So nobody's going to go on a prod and start manually moving update sets like a pleb. This is the date, time, the exact second that the flows kick in and they start moving the update sets between instances and getting it to prod. The freeze date is where we imagine a cutoff date. So if we're going to deploy on the 30th, then by the 24th, anything that should go to prod must be ready to go to prod. If you're not ready to go to prod, you get kicked off the train. Okay, and only the cars that are ready proceed to move on. We also have a release type. We have two types of releases that I'll show you. There's a scheduled, and then as you gain more confidence in the quality control mechanisms and the automation, you can add on-demand releases, which instead of going at a release date, go whenever the testing rigor has been completed. All right. We also have a really quick integration with change requests. We know a lot of you, when you push ServiceNow stuff to prod, you do it via change control. So you don't have to kind of manage it in two places. If I go to this change, if I go to that change, okay. And if I say, well, it really shouldn't go on the 30th, that's just a Thursday. We really want to go on the 31st. I'm going to ruin everybody's Halloween. Okay, so now that's the 13th, is going on the 30th first. So if I go back to my release, it's already adopted the release date of the change that's associated with the release. So no managing dates and times in two separate places. If you're using change control to do your ServiceNow stuff, it will automatically take that. You do still have to manually modify the freeze date. Okay, we know some people have multiple production environments, so you can have a different destination for each release. And we have a concept called a pipeline. You can think of a pipeline as a pathway of instances from source to destination. So in our sample release pipeline, that goes from dev to test to prod. We understand there's people out there that go dev, test, quality control prod, dev, test, compliance prod, dev, test, compliance, training prod, and we can facilitate that via separate pipeline definitions. So you can have multiple different release pipelines to get your stuff from the source to its destination. Other than that, release is just a normal task type. So you can imagine Robert Loblaw, his friends call him Bob, in the release management team, and he's responsible for saying like what is actually going to prod on October 31st. And so normally Bob is out there like emailing people and asking people and telephoning people. And what he really needs to know is just have these teams manage their train cars, right? What were the train cars? They were deployment requests. And so this release has already been in planning for, a few hours. And we see that there's different deployment requests in various stages of readiness. So we have 2 DRs that are in draft. They haven't even started assessing yet. And then we have 1 DR deployment request that is already ready for deployment. It's already gone through all of its testing rigor, all of its compliance rigor. We're talking about ATF, instant scan, whatever are quality control mechanisms, including external ones that you may want to integrate with to make sure that it's ready to go. It's done. When this train leaves the station, this DR is for sure going with it. We also have 2 DRs that have been assessed, but they are in a reconciling state. That means something has gone wrong. Well, shoot, if the higher ups are going to ask me what's going live and I have problems already identified about going live, I better get my head around that. So we have these deployment request tasks, okay? It manifests anytime something goes wrong with a deployment request. And you can see we have 2 different types here. There has been a testing issue and there has been a preview issue. Let's go back. Let's go to this deployment request task. Okay, it's a preview issue. I'm going to go to the DR and see exactly what went wrong. So here I am up at the deployment request that had the preview problem. And look, it says here's a link to the preview problem that this deployment request had. So I'm going to go to that preview problem. Now you'll notice I am in the test instance. Okay. And it shows me that I have this update set preview problem. I'm just going to go ahead and accept that remote update set. All right. I'm going to go back to my deployment request task. And I have a couple different ways to close it. I can resolve it, which means, hey, I reconciled the preview problem. Let's just resolve. Or I can say it needs a code change. And if I need a code change, it's going to take the deployment request and move that back to a draft state. So basically the quality control starts all the way over because I've added new configuration. For now, I'm just going to hit resolve. Okay. That will close the deployment request task. And if I go up to the deployment request, it marks that that preview issue has been closed. It's going to continue its assessment workflows. Okay. It's just going to take a while. So on this, if we give it a minute or two, which I know we don't really have, this reconciling is going to go back to assessing, and then is going to decide if it's ready for deployment or not. Okay. And then we have this, we have another one, which was a test failure. So if I go to that DR test failures have different closing mechanisms on their deployment request tasks. So we can rerun the tests, or we could do a need codes change, or we can sign off, basically saying, yeah, we know the test failed technically, but it's for other reasons. It's not the code. Go ahead and push it, the boss says. So I'm going to sign off on that one. And once those deployment request tasks are solved, once again, the release actually proceeds to assess on those deployment request tasks. If I have a deployment request here, it says new project templates for site security upgrades. Let me go to that one. And the team is telling me that everything that they need for that deployment request is actually ready to rock and roll. So they're going to take that deployment request and move it to ready to assess. And that begins the assessment workflow. I got like 30 seconds left here. So I'm going to skip right to the flows. Okay. Okay. There's a lot of stuff under the hood with flows and subflows and custom actions. We don't want you necessarily needing to worry about that. So what we've done is we've created a deployment request assessment playbook and a release deployment playbook. So this deployment request assessment is a playbook that outlines, like, what are we actually doing when we're assessing a deployment request? So it transitions to assessing. It's running ATF tests. It's checking the ATF test results. If there's failures, it's creating the task infrastructure for it. And then once it's done, it transitions the deployment request to ready for deployment. Okay. And then on the release date and time, this is the playbook it does. So if you have a process that looks a little bit different than what we do at ServiceNow, then you can go ahead and you can modify these playbooks to suit your process and your pipeline. Okay, that went a lot faster than I thought it was going to. So I'm going to have to cut it off here. Once again, if you want to learn more, if you want to ask some questions, it's Robert.Fedoruk at ServiceNow.com. You can also hit me up on LinkedIn, hit me a DM, and I will either answer the question or get you the people who can. Really appreciate the time you took to listen to me, and so excited about this. Most frequently asked question, how much does it cost? Absolutely nothing. Costs absolutely nothing. So looking forward to seeing you all out there. We have deployed 1,500 packages with ReleaseOps so far. Zurich being as young as it is, that's pretty amazing. We also have a customer that's deploying this live. They estimate they're going to save 1,000 hours a month. Can't wait for the rest of you all to see the same results.